heavy rains last night, so we should see a lot of leaf run. The leaves just running down, clearing their way out, depending on how heavy it rained here in the woods. Very mild today. Unusually mild, I would say. Probably 55 degrees Fahrenheit, feels like. Little to no wind. Nice, productive morning this morning. Running errands. Nice to see things growing on Suno. Yesterday, crossed the 500 follower mark quite quickly, I would say. The platform itself is fairly new. It's good to get in from on the ground floor, as it were, with instantaneous music production. So today, I want to talk about science with you in the way that I'm discovering it, which may or may not suit you. That's fine. Perhaps this walk in the woods is just what you need anyway, and nothing more. So just come take a walk with me now. Breathe. We're going to be talking about breathing today. I talk about it often. However, I don't usually talk about specifics. Not in the way that I am today. So, let's talk about tidal volume. Before anything, I just want to say hi. Hello. Let's talk about tidal volume. What is it? What's the meaning? How does it work? Well, think of the tides coming and going. Inhales and exhales. And if you think about volume, right? What happens when you're listening to something and the volume is too high? It means it's close to its limit. Volume's too low. Close to not being at all perceivable, right? Okay. Tidal volume, T-I-D-A-L. The coming and going of air in the human body in a given day equates to, ready for this? 2,100 gallons of air. I'll say it again. 2,100 gallons of air, minimum, upwards to 15,000 liters in a given day of tidal volume. That is the amount of air coming in and exiting the body. And why I'm breathing out of my mouth right now is because it's not comfortable to be breathing out of my nose. If I did a whisper walk, more manageable. As a result, the endorphins are better, but I want to move this morning and I want to speak with full volume. Okay? 2,100 gallons of air. I know what you're all thinking. Is that all oxygen? Well, In order to understand that, you have to think about what air is composed of in truth. The truth of the matter is, there's something coming in and out of our body that we really have nothing to do with until it's consumed in food. And that, my friends, is nitrogen. Nitrogen is something that we consume in food, and it serves our body in a number of ways, namely in digestion, in the burning and processing of foods. However, it happens to make up about 80% of the air we breathe. Just about. A little shy of 80. And the rest, mainly oxygen. No, maybe it's closer to 70% nitrogen. 75. So think of it like this. 3/4 of the air you breathe does not absorb in your body unless it's through the nostrils. I'll explain in a minute. Even then, only a small amount is. However, nitrogen serves a vital role in food intake, and it also is a wonderful carrier of oxygen. Okay? So nitrogen helps to transport oxygen through the body. And oxygen makes up about 1/4 of the air that you breathe. And then about 1% of that is carbon dioxide, the byproduct of fermentation. Okay. So CO2, I didn't mean to talk about global warming today, but we're going to discuss this because everyone says there's way too much CO2 emissions happening when it's all these plants want. These trees, all they want is CO2. Yet, it makes up about 1% of the composition of air that we breathe. Now, when we breathe out about 4% carbon dioxide. So we are producing carbon dioxide through fermentation in the body. Its byproduct, alcohol, and carbon dioxide. The alcohol is immediately evaporated from the body, removed as a toxin, as it were. And the acidity that's produced is managed in a number of ways, depending on the area of the body. We're not going into that today. What we're going into is breathing. So nitrogen is a great transportation vehicle for oxygen. It makes up about, just for the sake of making it easy for math, 3/4 of the air that you breathe is nitrogen. So what we breathe in is mostly nitrogen. Now, it gives structure to the lungs, but aside from that, it's not absorbed. Oxygen is. So about 25% of the oxygen that you introduce to your body is absorbed by the body. The result is the production of carbon dioxide through fermentation. That carbon dioxide leaves your body at about 1% out, 1 to 3%. But it's more than what you're taking in. So you're absorbing more oxygen than carbon dioxide simply because of the math, but also because the body does not need carbon dioxide. Disease does. Anaerobic disease, for the most part, functions off of carbon dioxide. But not all baddies function off of carbon dioxide, so it's a complicated system. And these trees outside of us need it in order to produce fresh oxygen, to oxygenate the air. So we're talking about as a rule of exchanges, tides coming and going, breathing in and breathing out. And we've just begun our discourse for the day. So 2,100 gallons of air coming in and out of the body in the form of nitrogen, oxygen, and a trace amount of carbon dioxide in a given day. Hello, chickadee. I'm sure it feels like a spring day to the birds today, to everything in the woods, including the trees. It's that warm. We just had snow on the ground. How strange. That's long gone now. Okay. So on we go with the discourse. I ask this question to children and adults alike because it's easy to understand the answer and find it. If we consume in tidal volume 2,100 gallons of air per day, upwards to 15,000 liters, then what do we consume the most of? Is it food? By volume? Is it water? By volume? No. It's overwhelmingly air. Yet most of it is just a transport vehicle. Nitrogen. Carries in, transports oxygen. Oxygen is absorbed, and that's required for energy production. Adenosine triphosphate, which is the currency of your body. It's the currency of life on Earth. And it requires oxygen to work in its optimum state of production. Now, without oxygen in an anoxic environment, like the mouth, there are forms of bacteria that thrive in an anoxic or without oxygen environment. One in particular is very healthy for you. It's part of the probiotic system in the gut and in the intestines. And I just read about it yesterday. Lactobacillus salivacei, I think it is. I could be wrong. However, you could look it up. It's in the salivary glands, mainly. And it feeds off of plaque in your mouth when the biome isn't disturbed. And by not disturbing the biome, I mean when you're not brushing with fluoride, neurotoxins, and other sorts of detergents, but instead letting the body be its own regulator, including the mouth. And you're not consuming sugar all day to feed the bad bacteria in your mouth to take over. This lactobacillus, or lactobacillus salivacei, it's one of those. Let's call it LS, so that we can all fall on the same page together, and I'm not making mistakes with something that I learned last night that I have yet to review with you. As far as its name, I didn't check it this morning because I wasn't planning on talking about it, but we are now. And the reason why is because if you're breathing in through the nose, this nasal passageway has specific systems within the mucous membranes that absorb nitrogen. How cool is that? But these same systems do not exist in the mouth. So as nitrogen is transporting oxygen, the only place, pretty much, where it is absorbed aside from your consumption of food, I'm talking about nitrogen, is in the nose. And it forms into nitric oxide. And that nitric oxide sends signals to the brain to release neurotransmitters for mood elevation, and pain management. How cool is that? Not very cool at all when you think about nitric oxide. It's fire. So you're literally taking in that fire through the nostrils. The mouth cannot do it. So you're starting to see what's happening here. As you breathe in through the nose, slight traces of nitric oxide are produced. Nitrogen is absorbed in small amounts, whilst also carrying oxygen, cleaning the air through the nostril hairs, warming the air through the mucous membrane, and sending signals to the brain to release endorphins, improving your immune system, improving your cognitive thinking, improving your mood, and also sending fresh air that's warm and filtered to the upper respiratory system whilst bypassing the petri dish of the mouth. Starting to see it now? The mouth is like the garbage heap, the start of it. It's like the trash pail, the mouth opening. And you're pouring in something, food, or water, liquids, to start the digestive process. And this LS bacteria plays a huge role in maintaining your health and longevity. How I know this is based on this study that was carried out by folks in Chernobyl. Perhaps you've heard of Chernobyl. In northern Ukraine, there was an area called a blue zone because there was a major fallout from a nuclear explosion and a cloud that affected an area, a radius of about 150 miles. Towns included were hugely affected by this because of the severe amounts of radiation that even to this day can be discovered using, what is it called, a Geiger-counter? Whatever detects radiation, makes that crackling noise. Even to this day, and this event was in 1986, to give you an idea. However, there's this one area in northern Ukraine that they call the blue zone. It was like an exclusion zone where the people in town didn't have any issues from the radiation. In fact, their health was seemingly undisturbed. And people were trying to figure out what's going on here. Trust me, this all ties into the breath and the mouth and the health of your biome in the mouth and your gut. Trust me, it's all going to come together. Just be patient. Just breathe. So there's this blue area, this exclusionary zone in northern Ukraine after the event in Chernobyl. And somebody from the CIA goes down there and starts doing some research. Finds out there's a family of people that come in as a sort of pilot test. There's a great-grandfather who's 125, supposedly. His son, 97. His son's son in his 70s. His son's son's son in his 50s, and on this goes. Multiple generations of family members with immune systems that were not even scratched by the events of Chernobyl. So this agent in his study starts looking from this vantage point of a school where they're doing the study. Sees there's a huge silo, and he had seen what grain silos look like. By the way, this is just a pause. Look at this vernal pond is now filling in after the rains. This was dry a week ago. And now there will be these wonderful communities of frogs who are probably awake as ever today. You can even hear them. They're happy as can be to have water, and they're probably breeding like mad because it's the full moon, and all the ducks are in a row. You'll even see, speaking of ducks, Mallard ducks land in this pond from time to time. I've caught them on video, though it's rare because they're easily scared because they're hunted. So they're beautiful ducks, the mallards. However, it's a rare sighting to see them, but they do land in this pond when there is a pond. In fact, this is the first winter where I've seen it dry up. I'm very happy to see that it's expanding now. And here comes the sun. How beautiful. Very nice. So he's looking out, he sees this silo, right? And it's not a grain silo, so he starts to inquire, what is it? And it turns out that that spot was for creating probiotics. A huge probiotics laboratory that seemed to have some effects on the local community. Now, whether it was leaching out or affecting people in their diet or what have you, I don't know the details. All I know is it was this LS bacteria that was being introduced. The Lactobacillus salivacei, something like that. And it was improving the longevity of these individuals as well as shielding them from these massive amounts of radiation from Chernobyl's horrible accident. So he takes this research back and discovers that this bacteria is abundant everywhere. The LS bacteria is everywhere, including especially in the mouth. However, it requires a transport to get past the gut. In most instances, only small amounts will make it to the intestine system. But once it makes it to the intestines, then it tends to have incredible benefits. So you either have to have a biome in your mouth that is very abundant with this bacteria, or you have some form of a pill that won't be destroyed by the acid in your stomach and make it through to the intestines. So let's say you don't have access to the pill, right? This casing that takes it all the way through. But you want to get this bacteria into your gut and into your stomach. First of all, you want to make sure that the biome in your mouth is perfect. And the way you do that is you breathe through the nose. It's the number one. Try to eliminate your sugar intake as much as possible because that will allow bad bacteria, competing bacteria that won't benefit you, to proliferate and grow and expand within your mouth. It also leads to sickness. So you're breathing through the nose, you're releasing nitric oxide, you're elevating your mood. Even better if you're around a body of water or the free electrons that come from forests or waterfalls or oceans or running streams. There's free electrons everywhere, and when you are speaking through the mouth, you create this sort of ion storm, an electron storm, where you're creating a cloud of energy, where electrons are gathering. And then, through your breath, they enter your body and they bind with your free radicals, which normally would mutate your cells and lead to other sorts of disease and problems, and allows them to fall and drop out and be processed by your immune system and your gut. How cool is that? So you might get this urgency to go to the bathroom right here in the woods. It might be as natural as ever. For some reason while you're here, you feel it more than ever. You might feel it in a library. You might feel it at the ocean. You might feel it in a pool. It's because you got all these free electrons binding to pollutants in your body, and your body's saying, let's get this out while we have this abundance, while everything is working in proper order. So it shouldn't be a surprise when you get the urgencies to go to the bathroom to eliminate while you're in the woods, because all of the free electrons that are coming from these trees, which are like upside down lungs, look, like upside down lungs, aren't they? They're releasing tons of negative ions or free electrons into the air, which bind to pollutants, purifying the air, and any that are inside the body allows them to drop out, and you can eliminate them. It's really cool. So while you're doing that, and you're breathing in through the nose, activating a release of nitric oxide, elevating your mood, you're also taking in this massive tidal volume of air, equating to a minimum of 2,100 gallons in a day. It's enough to fill up an above-ground swimming pool with air every day. Most of it is nitrogen. You don't even absorb it unless you're breathing in the proper way. And you want that nitrogen because it's like a fire. It is cleansing and purifying, activating, stimulating, and even more so concentrated when you do alternative nostril breathing. Plugging the right and breathing through the nose on the left. Plugging the left and breathing out from the right. Breathing in from the right. Plugging the right, breathing out from the left. And you can manage this with your thumb and pinky and ring finger. And while you're doing that, you can even massage your third eye, your pineal gland, with your index and middle finger. So it looks like this. It looks weird, but what I'm actually doing is I'm concentrating the amount of nitric oxide that's being released from the nostrils by focusing on one nostril at a time. It allows there to be a concentration of its production and absorption of nitrogen. It's hugely stimulating, it's deeply relaxing, and it helps with your cognitive ability. It's really incredible. It's all done through your breath. So while all that's happening and you're experimenting however you want to, with your breathing, you have an awareness now that the mouth needs to be anoxic, whereas your nostrils need to be oxidized. So oxygen is required for proper mood regulation through the nose. Obviously that goes to the lungs, I know, but its first entrance point should be through the nose. You can concentrate that however you like, using alternative nostril breathing. And your out breath, same thing from the nose. When you're relaxed and in meditation. If you're doing any sort of physical work, your body is going to need to get that carbon dioxide out faster. So you have the mouth as an exhale point. And it's anoxic for the most part. I mean, you're letting out oxygen, I know, into the mouth when you breathe out, but you're absorbing more oxygen on the way in. And then once you're calm, you return to full-blown nostril breathing. And then the mouth becomes anoxic again. So whatever bacteria was in there building up, it becomes anoxic, and the leaders of the charge inside the mouth take over again. It's great. They're getting a little exercise, just as you're getting exercise. And every time you are tensing your muscles, little charges of endorphins are being released into your body, like caches of them are trapped in your muscles. And the way they're released is you have to constrict them. So the more you work out, the more endorphins are released. And when you're calm, you just regulate all those endorphins with proper breathing through the nose. It's just a perfect system. Arnold Schwarzenegger talked about this in his film Pumping Iron from the late 70s. It's all about his Mr. Olympia adventures. And he refers to the pump, which is explosions of blood rushing into the muscle, the release of lactic acid, and all of these endorphins that he doesn't realize he's talking about, but he is. And he says it feels like an orgasm. Kind of makes sense now, doesn't it? That when you're working out, it becomes addicting. Why? Well, you get to notice the visual effects of your health improving, but that's more of a byproduct. The initial response is an endorphin release that's massive. So getting that daily exercise, doing that stretch, really important. And the ligaments are piezoelectric. So when you're stretching them, you're causing tension. Mechanical stress releases a small electric charge. It's as if it's saying, time to release all your goodies. Here comes the electric charge. Same thing happens with the pineal gland when you meditate and you direct your eyes inward while they're closed. Stimulate that with the sun at the same time, and you got a perfect recipe for a wish-fulfilled, blissful state of being. And it's all done from your body. How cool is that? That you could literally pop into the woods, do some walking, get some activity, and then do some light stretching, or do it before and after, followed by long, deep breathing. And you've made your body a temple of God for real. It's cleansed itself. The free radicals have bound to these free electrons. They fall out. That's why you eliminate in the morning. If you have the ability, if you feel the urgency, eliminate in the morning after exposure to free electrons, okay? And then you're getting the maximum benefit of the release of toxins from your body. Dense heavy metals and pollutants, whatever you may have introduced. It's all beautiful. It's all happening naturally. It's not like the doctors can say you can't do that. You shouldn't go take a walk in the woods. The day that happens, oh man, I cry for the world. The moment a doctor says you can't take a walk in the woods, you shouldn't. Don't go near the sunlight without coating yourself with castor oil, blocking out the sun, whatever. Don't go to the ocean. Don't expose yourself to the cold. You see what's going on here? Are you catching on yet? Doctors are telling you to do none of the things that are naturally beneficial for you. So no cold exposure, no sunlight exposure, no exercise, no mobility, no walking, no stretching, no breathing. You know, you've got sleep apnea. Come and do a study. And what do? Try to open up your nostrils. Your nostrils will naturally open up the more you exercise them. But how are you going to exercise them with a face mask on? Truthfully, you're going to be sucking in fabric with every breath. It's just really sad, you know? It's really sad. I wouldn't know any of these things unless I just discovered them because my body was telling me, do it. Like there was some part of me that was saying, do this twice a day. Because it feels so good to just get out here into the free electrons, let them bind to the impurities in your body, eliminate them as quickly as possible, breathe consciously, think consciously, act consciously, walk consciously, pray, meditate. These things have such a profound impact on your health and body. I can't explain it further. 2,100 gallons is your tidal volume of consumption of air in a given day. You would think it has some importance. That's just me, I suppose. But instead, what do? We incarcerate ourselves in the home. We close the windows. We put the blinds down. We shut out the light and we shut out the air. And when we walk around in the house, it's usually without any contact to the ground because your feet are cold. God forbid you walk outside in your bare feet. I'm not now, but I try to get at least a few minutes direct contact with my bare feet on the earth every day. Because like the trees, it allows those electrons to just flow right through you. And we as human beings are positively charged. So we have to have balance. You get too much of one, it starts to topple. You don't have to worry about getting too much of negative ions. Trust me, you don't have to worry. Just like you don't have to worry about carbon dioxide emissions. Stuff is ridiculous. And I know that will probably get this flagged, but this is the area where I say, I know this will probably get me flagged. But it is ridiculous to think that something that is 1% of the air coming out as 3% in order for the plants to have food, to produce oxygen and their own source of food through photosynthesis is ridiculous to say that we have too much of that going on this planet. That we have to eliminate that somehow. Seems to be as logical as putting cloth over your face in order to keep the bacteria out, when in fact it creates an even stronger petri dish in the form of a yeast culture that forms in the fabric. It's the same way that you would make a yeast mother for bread making. I'm serious. It's the same thing. You put a cheesecloth over a container, you fill that container with water and glucose, which is exactly what's in your mouth. Bacteria forms. There you go. You got that in your mouth. You got that on the cloth. And so I know people say, well, I don't want to get others sick. That would be a reason to cover your mouth. I get it. But covering your mouth when you're not sick will make you sick. I'll say it again. Covering your mouth when you are not sick will create a perfect environmental situation for bacteria to thrive. And it will thrive through water, oxygen, and sugar, all of which you're putting into that beautiful petri dish that is your mouth. It is the same as the beginning of the garbage dump. And so let's just end the conversation of insanity, please, because it's been going on since 2019. And if I hadn't been fermenting beverages and making bread for about a decade prior to that, I'd probably be very angry at the words that I'm saying right now. But because I understood how fermentation worked and watched it happen and knew what the catalysts were, immediately I knew that what was going on here was something that was going to lead people to getting sick faster than getting healthy. The way you get healthy is you just leave your body alone. Seriously, it's the best way to get healthy. If you feel sick, don't eat. Fast. Doctors are going to say don't do that either. It's too dangerous. Too dangerous to get healthy. But when you fast, you starve your body of that vital nutrient that it needs for bacteria to grow, which is sugar. And it allows your stomach to relax and go on vacation for a little while and start to turn towards autophagy, which is the consumption of its own cellular structures and the removal of impurities as a result of it consuming itself. And you allow that to happen by leaving it alone. And it just so happens that humanity used to leave eating alone, not by choice, but because it's what we had as the option, which led to a more concise focus, a honing in to understand how to get the food, because it wasn't a constant. There were no supermarkets. We fasted for days on end. Once again, it was not by choice, but by mandate. Yeah, we make these mass mandates, and they say don't fast. Even though if you starved your body of sugar, your cancer cells would have no choice but to die. Cancer consumes sugar 8 times more, faster, more and faster than the rest of the cells in your body. So if you starve your body of sugar, the cancer cells literally cannot grow. They can't. I can't express this with any clearer detail. If you want disease to end with your body, leave it alone. Don't introduce things to it other than the breath. The breath through the nose, not through the mouth, and nothing more aside from water. Clean, pure spring water. Now in this space right here, we have tons of free electrons. Every time this water flows and strikes the stones, it's releasing all these beautiful free electrons. So you want to be around this while in the woods for the ideal health bath. This is why they talk about forest bathing being so beneficial. Henry David Thoreau mentioned how enlightenment occurs in the woods and how you always take back with you more than when you went in with as far as gifts. This was standing out. Look at that little heart rock. This is a conglomerate. It's called a conglomerate. It's the last bit of rock formation after volcanic activity, and usually the largest crystals are formed in it. This is a nice, beautiful pink conglomerate heartstone. Cool. That's for all of you. Conglomerates have a large likelihood of including gemstones in them, tourmalines, which also lead to the formation of aquamarine, quite common, and pegmatite, one of my favorite stones. So these negative ions are binding with impurities, they're dropping out, and they're on their way. It's not exactly the science behind it, but you can see this in your mind. So just breathe. This is a great place for affirmations as we send out our own electron clouds with every uttered word. Let's make them count. Say to yourself, say aloud if you can, or if you can't, just say in your mind, I have a large, steady, dependable income, consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. I look upon money as divine substance forever circulating in my experience, forever circulating in more than it's circulating out. Thus I never am without. Just like the air that comes into my body, the nitrogen that enters serves as a transport for the oxygen that is vital for my survival and its energy production. I imagine with every breath the Lord in His own divine way, ushering in all of this wealth so that I may express myself in my healthiest form and enrich the lives of my community, my loved ones and friends, country, and planet. knowing that my purpose in being here is to be fruitful and multiply. I understand the flowing stream in a greater way comes from a source. That source is infinite in its intelligence and expression, through which all possibilities are made manifest. I believe. Take a deep inhale. Exhale and let it go. That's a big part of it now. You stay at the stream forever, but that's not going to benefit you. You got to let it go. Has to be time for processing. So now that you have a greater, perhaps, appreciation for the breath in its tidal volume and its purpose in mood elevation, processing, production of fresh oxygenated blood, which we haven't talked about much, but the platelets in your body literally give up their nuclei in order to carry more oxygen throughout the body because it's so vital for your survival and well-being. So that which once was a stem cell gives up that huge power in order to carry oxygen throughout the body for you. That's your bloodstream. Pretty nice. So you see how this is so essential, this air, this breathing process, the coming and going, and its regulation. So important. So let me ask you, what is higher, the nostrils or the mouth on your face? Now you know, in case you had to check. Your nostrils are higher than your mouth. Breathing in through it, breathing out of it, and managing the gut through the mouth. These are the systems that you must care for in addition to your body. Through regular exercise, tensing of the muscles, creating that piezoelectric mechanical stress. All of this is essential. I think the nostrils kind of look like a pyramid. Don't they look like that to you? Two entrance points on the bottom, but not one on the top, is there? But where it leads to is that same pyramid symbol that you'll see on the dollar bill. The all-seeing eye, the pineal gland, rests atop the apex point of this pyramid. Just above that, that's where your pineal gland is. The true eye of creation, the source of your imagination and dreams resides there. So you introduce air, creating nitric oxide, and a little bit of pressure with your tongue on the upper palate of your mouth creates a slight piezoelectric effect through mechanical stress. You close your eyes and you turn them slightly inward in a meditative gaze. Adds a little more pressure. Now it starts to release electricity. That electricity comes in contact through this pressure with a little bit of cerebrospinal fluid that's been pressed up into the third ventricle, touching, just massaging the lower parts of that pineal gland. And the electric current sends a signal to the body to say, this is a seed that's ready to germinate. And what comes from that is an incredible transformation of intellect, health, wellness, and wish fulfillment. And you don't have to introduce anything but air. So let's talk about that air, how significant it is, aside from its volume that we take in and the benefits that it gives the body. Let's talk about what it means to breathe. And I discovered this a while ago, and I loved discovering it. It's one of my favorites. Etymology is the study of the origin of words, whereas semiotics is the study of symbols. A little bit of the two I like to discuss in our walks. Etymology in the case of the breath in Latin, it means spiritus, spirit. So spirit and the breath are one. Take that in for a moment. Take it in holistically, fully. The Holy Spirit. When you think of whole, you think emptiness, right? Nothingness, the void. But when you think about whole, like Whole Foods, W-H-O-L-E, you think of all-encompassing, nothing missing, complete. As they call it in Spanish, entero. So you get both with the Holy Spirit. The in-breath, Whole Foods. The out-breath, nothing. Seemingly. Yet, the transportation vehicle, nitrogen, coming and going, much like the infinite intelligence within you, you can't see it, but you feel it. You can't quite define it, but you know it's there. Holy, hallowed, holistic, Whole Foods, all come from the same generative principle that resides in every human being. Everything and nothing at the same time. Inhale and exhale. Everything and nothing. And for those who are scientists who have been studying quantum phenomena will understand where I'm going with this. In order for there to be superposition or a unified field, there must be everything and nothing at the same time. All possibility within a single atom, and nothing at the same time until there is thought added to it. Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. So the Holy Spirit, that which is everything and nothing and is also the breath, is our breathing mechanism. You get it now? So when I say to you, we are pure spirit, always have been, always will be, I mean, we are more the breath in the tidal volume of 2,100 gallons per day than any food we eat, any drink we may process, anything else we consume. We are more the breath than anything else by far. Yet, the breath that comes and goes in our body is about 75% not used. How are we not beings of abundance? For if we were beings of scarcity, wouldn't we need to use that vital nitrogen for other purposes? Well, we do. Just not nearly all of it. We use a tiny amount of it, only when we connect with the spirit in the proper way through the nostrils. Now we're getting somewhere. Now it's starting to make sense, isn't it? my Holy Spirit gives me life. For if I do not breathe, in a minute's time, my brain dies. The brain needs the oxygen that you're taking in through the nostrils, more than through the mouth. For there's a blood-brain barrier where very few things, aside from oxygen, can pass through. Very few things, aside from nanoparticulates. But we won't talk about that on this lovely, stagnant YouTube channel, will we? No, we won't talk about things that cross the blood-brain barrier without us knowing, because that would be misinformation, you see. So we won't talk about nanoparticles crossing the blood-brain barrier unbeknownst to the individual. What we will talk about instead is how important your air, your vital breathing, is for the reproduction of beautiful oxygenated blood, which goes to the blood-brain barrier, and oxygen is extracted and crosses over to the brain. And without that oxygen, your brain is dead. Done. You are pure spirit. Are you getting it now? Is it registering? I do pray. I do pray, because the answers to all of your health have to do with leaving your body alone while doing what comes naturally to you. Because of our ancestors and the way that they treated this body. Decidedly was made to work, not for us to ignore it or do the opposite of it. So if you do not introduce food to your body for a certain period of time, you will enter into a phase of autophagy, and a whole different system will start to work for the production of energy. And it happens to leach out impurities at the same time. You do that in conjunction with going to the woods, enjoying the streams and the waterfalls. You get to go to the ocean, enjoy those tides. At the same time, every time you get a hunger pang, you realize you're doing this for the benefit of your body, for its healing. And you should do a fast at least once a year. Try to make it 12 hours if you can do it. Try 24. If you can eat once a day like Sadhguru, look at the man's health. He eats at night, one meal. He eats a good meal. He eats the things he wants. And then his body goes into a short form of autophagy every day. For it's 24 hours before his next meal. So it's constantly repairing and removing impurities. And you know his breath work is probably very intense because he knows the benefits. As soon as you understand the benefits of breath work, you start doing it because it's free medicine. It's free and awaiting you. It's free pharmacy. You don't have to go to the pharmacy, you just breathe consciously. You get pharmacy for free. You think the pharmacy is going to like hearing that? You think doctors are going to like hearing that? Think anyone's going to like hearing that but the person who has already discovered its benefits? It's an optimal question, isn't it? Let's talk about the sun. Let's talk about exposure to the sun and what it does for your body. I read up on these hospitals that instead of having beds in a ward, the shades down and blue light emittance from LED lights, all the beds were placed outside in the sun. These people with major injuries, given this sun exposure with fresh open air, while resting. And the recovery was remarkable. So the next time you think, I wonder how long it's been since I had 15 minutes of sunlight, and it's available to you every day, perhaps you should just go give yourself that 15 minutes without sunblock during the opportune hours, which aren't in the peak of the day. Do it on the outskirts when the sun is the least strong, and stay in it as long as comfortable, as long as it is comfortable. Okay? I mean, it's so sad that I have to say, please speak to your physician before you expose yourself to the sun. So sad that we've come to this. So unbelievably sad. You have cholesterol in your body that the brain needs, and it wants to convert that into vitamin D. And the best way to do it is with the sun. The best way. And this is why Barbara O'Neill is getting shafted here and there and is blowing up on social media where there's free speech. Because she's been tapping into these remedies, these natural remedies. Notice how I haven't talked about a single bit of medicine that you have to consume today. I've talked about the breath and sunlight and movement. Nothing special, but totally divine. But you notice that? All of the systems I've talked about, aside from spring water and fasting, I've mentioned no products. No products that you couldn't just immediately have access to, that you should have immediate access to, because they heal you. Fresh breath, fresh air, movement of the body, fasting, sun exposure. They seem like wild concepts in the minds of most. And that's why I'm sad. Not for too long, but, you know, for dramatic purposes, I'm sad that people don't get it. Literally, you don't get the sun you need. You don't get the rest you need for your body by leaving it alone. You don't get the movement you need either by keeping it active. I mean, leave it alone from digestion and keep it active from a muscular standpoint. And keep breathing. And breathe properly. And the next time you're told you got to put on sunblock, my gosh. Just go try it on your favorite plants in the garden. That's all I'm going to say. You're no longer going to need, what is that? You're not going to need any pesticides because you're going to have the perfect form of weed killer putting a high SPF on your plants. They die in a day. Yeah, you don't have to buy weed killer, just put your highest SPF, your first person shooter, shoot it right there on those weeds. Sure enough, they'll die out in a day because they will be starved of sun, starved of the radiation that they need for photosynthesis. Now, I know the human body doesn't require photosynthesis, but it does require the conversion of cholesterol into vitamin D. Because without that proper vitamin D, you have really no chance to carry those vital components of calcium and other trace minerals that you need to scale the hills of the day. Without that vitamin D It's the same as not having nitrogen to carry that oxygen as a transport. I'm telling you. Please just see for yourself, okay? See for yourself or don't. But if you want to feel better, just breathe through your nose. It's hard to do sometimes. It requires discipline, especially if you're breathing through the mouth. It requires discipline. But it releases endorphins that your body deserves and needs, so that you're not thinking about how you need to avoid this moment, how you need to avoid this now moment, because you don't have the endorphins, so you have to take something, some medicine, some psychotropic interference, some mask, in order to feel like you can survive this painful now moment. Try breathing first, please. Try a breath through the nose. See how it feels. Take it to the doctor's office for free. It's your medicine. Doctor asks, what have you been doing? Things look really good. You say, great. I don't talk about my past. That's how I do well. That's how you do well at the doctor's office. The doctor asks you a question, what have you been doing? Because things look good. Well, they certainly want to tell you immediately following that, if you were to spill the beans and explain that you're just breathing with consciousness, exercising regularly. Well, you gotta keep an eye out for that heart rate, because your cholesterol levels and your blood pressure, and on this goes. So you don't say anything other than, I don't talk about my past anymore, and it gives me relief. I find myself more concentrated on the aliveness of this present moment than anything else. And the more I choose to relate to this moment in the simplest of ways, without defining who you are or myself or any of my pre-existing supposed conditions, I feel a great sense of relief come about. And it's not something that I can explain to you or anyone else, nor would I want to, because it feels sacred to me. The past isn't sacred to me, nor is the future. What's sacred to me is my aliveness right now. And I believe I've said too much already. You can say that the next time the doctor asks you, what have you been doing? It's incredible. Because they want to find some contraindication in the thing that you're doing. Well, you know, it doesn't mean you can stop taking this medicine. Well, you know, it doesn't mean you can't. Doesn't mean you can start consuming salt, even though we're the salt of the earth. That is an American goldfinch. Those are blue jays that you hear. Screeching like mad, saying, we got a payday here, everybody. We did not expect this. We thought the winter would be upon us. The ground is thawed. The northern flickers are nowhere to be found because they are just mopping it up. They're reaching down into the earth with their beautiful rapier sword beak, extending their tongues inches down into the ground and grabbing as many goodies as they can possibly get their hands on and just fatten up. Fatten up in a day. The woodpeckers flying around, the birds. The snowbirds, these juncos, are thinking, what's going on here? Hey, junkitos. Hi, guys. Hello, Junkito. The Junkos, the snowbirds are out. Hey guys. They're saying we're gonna follow you back because we want goodies. We want goodies today. So they're just flying station by station with me. And I love these beautiful creatures. The dark-eyed junco. They don't bother anyone. They fly low, they feed low. They're going from branch to branch. It's so cute. They know that I've got goodies for them waiting, which I do. Let's remove this. This is a felled tree. Let's do our best. Let's move this off the path. Okay. All right. Okay, that's good enough. Juncos are probably like, okay, the big giant is freaking out, moving big sticks. Listen to all the guys out here. The one that goes, heh, that's a woodpecker. That is a chickadee that goes, ch-ch-ree. The rah, rah. Those are blue jays, part of the crow family. That's a crow. And they'll could be a nuthatch, though I could be wrong. You know how some people are really good at tasting different wines and identifying them, or beers? I'm good at identifying bird sound, bird call, because I've practiced listening. A chickadee, or it could be a tufted titmouse who's angry or vigilant. But you see, you start paying attention to these sounds, you forget about time. You forget about the past, you forget about the future. Not because they're scary, but because they just don't matter anymore. They don't matter more than this beautiful moment. That's what's so cool about it. It's not like you're trying to be tough. It's not that. You're just absorbed in truth. God's manifold expression. And the more you breathe and you're conscious of it, the more you will pay attention to the sounds around you, the flavors you consume, the sounds you hear, the things you touch. And the things you see. Starts to present a lot more truth to your day. You may find. You may just find that. So breathe through the nose. It's your temple. It's a pyramid. It activates the only non-hemispherical part of your brain, the pineal gland. Turn your eyes slightly inward to where it's comfortable in your meditative state. Eyes closed, exposed to the sun. Convert that cholesterol under your skin to vitamin D. It serves as a transport. And keep breathing through the nose. Give your body's digestive system a rest from time to time. Drink pure spring water from a local source if possible by going to findaspring.org and making it work. And before anything, consult with your doctor or physician to make sure that going outside, breathing, and receiving sunlight and giving your body a rest from digestion is in fact to your benefit. in accordance to your current surgical dates and scans and assessments, where there will be nothing found but problems. I ask that you please do speak to those physicians and doctors first because they know best. They know best. I'm just a vagabond walking in the woods. Don't mind me. I'm just here for your entertainment purposes, for posterity. Don't mind me. And until next time, folks, while you observe these incoherent rants about things that seem like science fiction because they are probably to you, remember that you become what you think about. And every time you entertain a thought, that thought acts as a seed. And that seed gets transported through your feelings to the mind of God and onward to the great shoreless sea that is the universal subconscious mind, God, of which you are part as pure spirit. So, knowing that, keep wishing consciously, with awareness, and wish well. And until next time, God bless you and God bless this beautiful country, the United States of America, this beautiful free country. God bless it in all of its entirety. And God bless all the humans here and all the creatures.